إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدى هدى محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. There is a question that people often ask, whether they ask themselves or they go public and asking that question. And some actually do ask that question out of disapproval sometimes, or maybe sometimes out of wanting to understand. Regardless of what the motive is, the question is a very important one. And it's a question that the angels even asked when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam. Why does Allah allow suffering in the world? And I don't claim to have an answer. I too am seeking an understanding, trying to understand. And the best way to tackle this question is through learning the book of Allah and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about himself and about the history of man. Why does Allah allow suffering in the world? A lot of people actually deviate and leave faith altogether. They leave religion altogether just because they don't understand and they can't find an answer to the question. And is it okay not to find an answer for this question? And I tell you, yes, it is okay not to find an answer to this question. Sometimes it's not even a question, it's a mystery. A question is when there's a solution, but there's no solution for this one. It's a mystery because we are part of it. We human beings are part of the problem, if we want to call it a problem. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made a lot of things clear to us in the Quran if we only contemplate and understand. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the angels that He was going to create, or He is creating, or He has created a creation that will be on earth, that will be placed on earth. And to give you a perspective, earth, from that point of view, was the only planet that was livable, that resembled paradise. But it's not paradise. وَأُتُوا بِهِ مُتَشَابِهًا. There's nothing that can be compared to paradise. But to us as human beings, we look at it, it is paradise. It is beautiful. It is enjoyable. We don't want to leave it. Allah put us in here, but we struggle to leave it. And that is a source of the problem, by the way. That one thing, that us not wanting to leave this earth, is a source of the problem, of the mystery. Why we question Allah. Why do you make us suffer? Isn't this Jannah? But it's not Jannah. This question is often remembered. So what did Allah tell them? When they said, why would you create a creation that would cause mischief and bloodshed on earth? Exactly the same question. Why would you allow this to happen? What did Allah say? إِنِّي أَعْلَمُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. I indeed know what you do not know. Now, the difference between us and the angels is that the angels know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They know His names. They know how He works. But not to the fullest, because they know only what He told them. So they know that there is wisdom, and that's why they were asking. They were not asking to question Allah. They were asking, seeking wisdom. We, on the other hand, sometimes we ask that question disapprovingly, out of our whims and out of our impulses, that we can't believe, oh Allah, you love us and you put us through this. But that is not why the angels asked. So it's okay to not know the answer when Allah told them, indeed, I know what you do not know. So we often ask this question disapprovingly sometimes, or to seek answers and understanding when we are suffering, when we are in pain. Sometimes we don't ask it, we just feel it. Inside you, you're being patient, and you ask, I don't know, I'm trying to seek understanding and wisdom. Why am I suffering? Why should this child suffer through pain and through cancer or through difficulty? Why are the children in Idlib now are suffering the horrific expulsion from their homes? That they are under difficult weather now. And if they stay in their homes, they're under showers of bullets and bombs. You ask that question. Why should there be orphans? Why should there be people who are in pain? And what is it about pain that we don't feel good about? Can we handle pain? And all of these questions come in your mind. And that is definitely a very philosophical question when it comes to it. And a lot of philosophers tried to discuss it. And some of them were misled. But I'm trying to find an understanding. And I want you and encourage you to read the book of Allah. Because Allah made a lot of things clear to us if we only pay attention and not just read Quran like we're just rehearsing some prose, but with contemplation. Allah brought many examples in the book of Allah for reasons why people suffer. Starting with Adam. He was placed in Jannah, and then he made a mistake. Allah did not punish him, Allah forgave him. But then Allah, in His great wisdom, so that this creation does not belong here now, He will come back to it. But He doesn't appreciate it. Adam at that time did not appreciate Jannah because he didn't know anything better or less. He didn't know anything less. He didn't see discomfort. How could you appreciate love if you don't see hate or indifference? How could you appreciate happiness if you don't see misery? He didn't see that. So He will send him to earth, which resembles Jannah a little bit, but then he will have to toil and fend for himself and fight. And then He mentions the story of his two sons. One of them envied the other so much so that he killed him. Then we go on, the story of Nuh agonizing about losing his son to disbelief. He couldn't even save his own son. And for those who have children, it's difficult for you to see that your child is not a believer. So you could understand the feeling of agony that Nuh alayhi salam, to the point where he asked Allah, you promised me. And Allah told him, Nuh, he's not your son. Meaning not that he is not your son, meaning that he's not following the way you follow. إنه عمل غير صالح. Indeed, it is not a good deed. And it goes on. Ibrahim alayhi salam and his trials, Allah put him through so many temptations. And we're talking about these are prophets that Allah put them through trials and temptations and tests, and finally he passed all of them. Ayub, the epitome of patience. No one can understand fully the story of Ayub alayhi salam until you really get into the depth of the story and understand it. Here's a prophet that is promised Jannah forever, but he had to sacrifice everything that he had and was patient and gladly accepted it and was praised by Allah for his patience and endurance and perseverance. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the story of a man who lost all of his children. He himself was an orphan, lost his father before he saw him, lost his mother when he was 6 years old. As they were going back to Mecca from Medina, he had to go with his nanny, Baraka, by the two of them only, and then lost his grandfather. And then he had to deal with the difficulty of work and all these tests. Now, I can really draw a picture for you of so much misery that you can read in all the books of history, all the news that you read, and the book of Allah itself. But I can assure you that there are happy endings. Because we forget that there are happy endings when we're suffering. We forget that attacks will not continue. They will come to an end. We forget that tests will not continue. It will come to an end. We forget what Allah said twice, and He said it twice. Why? Because in case you forget, I'm repeating it, He says, Inna ma'al usri yusran. Did you forget that? Inna ma'al usri yusran. He said it twice, not once. And He didn't say, indeed, after hardship will come ease. He says, no. He says, indeed, with hardship comes ease. Hardship comes, and in it is the very thing that will stop it. That's Allah's promise. You have to believe in Allah's promise. And you have to believe in His wisdom, that He puts you through this for a great wisdom, not just haphazardly. Al-abathiyya laysat min sifatillah, a'udhu billahi min dhalik. Allah did not create you in vain. Allah created you with great wisdom. And Allah showed the angels exactly who you are, because from the children of Adam came people that really excelled and reached higher levels, sometimes even higher than the angels themselves. When the angels, the tradition says that when the angels made fun of people, how they can fall prey to temptation and to desire, Allah showed them by sending two angels, Harut and Marut, who could not handle temptation. At the first test of temptation, they fell. Harut and Marut, two angels, just to show it's not easy to have free will. It's not easy to balance temptation and righteousness. Yet man was able to do so. There's one story that might be puzzling to you, and I will just say it very briefly. But in that story, actually, you will find a lot of answers to the question. The story of the people of the ditch, Al-Ukhdud, Ashab Al-Ukhdud. In Surah Al-Buruj, Allah described the story very briefly, but it's a long story, and I won't have time to mention it all. But it is after this one young man rose up to become a very effective person in making people believe in Allah, making da'wah, and people started believing in Allah, where the whole town became believers in Allah. And the king who did not believe in Allah, did not worship Allah, did not like that. So he said, you either go back to what you used to believe, or you're going to be burnt. So he dug a big ditch and built a big fire, and he threw them all in there if they did not retract. And all of them did not retract and decided to continue with faith. And so the fire in front of them, and they were placed in the fire, and they burned to death. One woman had a hesitation, and she had her baby. She wasn't actually afraid for her life. She was afraid for the baby. She said, I can go in the fire. How can I do this to the baby? Allah made the baby speak, as the hadith says. Mama, go forward. You are on the truth. And she threw herself as well as the baby in the fire. It may have not been a long time before they all died, but that was probably a short time of suffering. It is painful, definitely. It is difficult. But Allah described it as al-fawz al-kabir. He said, this is the greatest triumphant. Because Allah in this surah showed us two groups. A group that will go to hellfire. They will be punished for the way they punish these believers. And a group that will enjoy Jannah forever. If you do not put the hereafter in perspective, if you don't do that, you will not reconcile with the question. It won't be easy for you. You have to understand that this life is not the end of it. And when we came to this life, we were actually pre-warned that we will leave it with death. We're not going to leave it in an easy way. It's not like you go on a train trip to the hereafter. No, it's not like how Disney shows it to the kids. No. It's death. That's how you will leave this life. That is your gate to the hereafter. And that in itself is painful. But Allah has prepared you in this life, so in the day of judgment, you will appreciate what Allah will give you. So Allah described Himself in Surah Al-Buruj as ala kulli shay'in shaheed. Don't you ever doubt Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is a witness to everything that happens. He sees it. He sees what happens in Idlib with all these kids, mothers, children, people leaving their homes in this cold weather to protect themselves from the bombing, as we also are witness to that. He sees that. He sees the pain and suffering. Does He like it? Don't ever doubt Allah. No, He doesn't like it. You have to understand that evil, pure evil, does not exist except in theory. Pure evil doesn't exist except in the books or in theory. But evil exists, and Allah allows it to happen for a great wisdom, for the great goodness that will come out of it as well, if we only contemplate. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not evil, and He doesn't like evil, but He is the only creator. He's the omnipotent. He is able to do everything. But with everything He does, there is great wisdom that we have to realize and understand. And only by reading His words and thinking about them deeply can we ever reconcile with the question, Why does Allah allow suffering? أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. I will shed some lights on some of the reasons that we can find. And I love what Shaykh Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah wrote in his book Al-Qadr and Reasoning. And he put about 36 reasons for why Allah created Iblis, why Allah created evil. And he shows that there's no such thing as pure evil, even Iblis, because there's always something good that comes out of that. Let me share some of these things that one of the most important things that we have to know, that Allah will not put you through a test that you cannot bear. Keep that in mind. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. And number two, that the most tested among us are the most righteous, are the prophets, and the ones who are most righteous. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created rules and laws on this earth that we have to go through these. You have on earth, you have different seasons. You have cold and hot. You have plains. You have valleys. You have mountains. And in order for you to go through life on this earth, you have to struggle. There's no way that you have to strive and get to your goals. When Allah put Adam on earth, He told him, this is earth, and I will send you guidance. But Allah gave him the tools to make earth useful for him. But إِنَّكَ كَادِحٌ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ كَدْحًا فَمُلَاقِيهِ. Allah promised that you will struggle and toil until you meet your Lord. And that He didn't create Jannah on earth. There will be some difficulty here. And Allah has names that are beautiful and attributes that are beautiful that we will never grasp the meaning of these names and attributes if they don't implement them in our lives. Allah is a Shafi. He's the healer. How could He be the healer if there is no sickness? You don't like sickness, but Allah is the healer. So you're bound to get sick. Allah is Al-Ghaffar, Al-Ghafur. Allah described Himself by saying, إِنَّهُ Al-Ghafur Al-Wadud in the same surah as Al-Buruj, and promised those who even inflicted pain upon the believers that if they repent, Allah will forgive them. And Al-Wadud to the believers, the loving towards them. If you don't rise to the level of being deserving of Allah's love, you need to struggle to get to that point. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala offered the trust to the mountains and the heavens, and they both refused it. But we as human beings did not refuse. We accepted it. إِنَّهُ كَانَ ظَلُومًا جَهُولًا. Indeed, we misestimated this trust. We're ignorant of the ramification of this trust. Now you tell me I did not sign on that contract. A lot of you say we were not there when we were asked. Well, I'm asking you now. Would you refuse $100,000 right now with all the responsibility that comes with it? And if you say, no, I would not accept it, I say, blessed are you. But I think 99% of you, including myself, will say, yes, give me $100,000 with all the responsibility that comes with it. That is a responsibility, you accept or not. If I tell you, let me put you in jail and not give you freedom, you will say no. You enjoy your free will. Free will has a price, and that price comes in a form of suffering sometimes. Because if you are given the choice, you are bound to make mistakes. And with a mistake, there's a suffering. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ظَهَرَ الْفَسَادُ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ بِمَا كَسَبَتْ أَيْدِ النَّاسِ. Indeed, corruption and mischief has been prevailed or has been rife and prevalent in the land and the sea because of what man does, because of the free will. So don't tell me I don't accept this free will. You accepted it. And because you don't know the ramifications of it, you make people suffer because of their accepting this free will. And that is part of Allah's greatness. Without this, there will be no meaning to thankfulness or patience or goodness in people. If there are no orphans, there will be no people who will rise and say, I'm willing to help these orphans. If Allah made all people equal, where nobody equal in their status, equal in their provision, equal in their happiness, if Allah made everyone happy, there will be no meaning for happiness. But you can see happiness when you see misery, when you see the afflicted ones, the tried ones, the ones when you go to the hospital and see the people who are sick, and you say, Alhamdulillah, I thank Allah for this. I met a brother 2 weeks ago, and he's been in the hospital for over a year, or almost a year. And all he does is thanking Allah. And I'm just asking, I don't wish that I'd be in his place, but I wish I had his sense of thankfulness, gratefulness. This is someone that I see. He has the Quran right there beside him, reading the Quran all the time. I'm thinking that it's a blessing that he's reading the Quran all the time. And this blessing only came because he's tried and tested, because he's on his sick bed, where he doesn't do anything else except read Quran. Isn't that a blessing? A lot of us don't appreciate the difficulty until we see, when we're relieved from the difficulty, the happiness that we get after that. This is what we call a blessing in disguise. There are so many things that I can share with you, but I don't have enough time to go over all these things that Ibn al-Qayyim put in his book, explaining the wisdom and the greatness of Allah that you can see through the eyes of the people in pain, through the eyes of the people who are suffering. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to relieve all of their pain. Allahumma shfi mardana warham mawtana. Oh Allah, relieve the pain of those who are suffering. Oh Allah, help our brothers and sisters in Syria, in Idlib, in Kashmir, in India, in China. All these brothers and sisters who are suffering. Oh Allah, make us the ones that can go to their help and to their relief. Make us instruments that we will be, so they can be relieved from their suffering and from their pain. Oh Allah, اغفر لنا وارحمنا. اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا. اللهم اقسم لنا من خشيتك ما تحول به بيننا وبين معصيتك، ومن طاعتك ما تبلغنا به جنتك، ومن اليقين ما تهون به علينا مصائب الدنيا، ومتعنا اللهم بأسماعنا وأبصارنا وقواتنا أبدا ما أبقيتنا، واجعله الوارث منا، واجعل ثأرنا على من ظلمنا، وانصرنا على من عادانا. اللهم لا تجعل مصيبتنا في ديننا، ولا تجعل الدنيا أكبر همنا، ولا مبلغ علمنا، ولا إلى النار مصيرنا، واجعل الجنة هي دارنا. اللهم اشف مرضانا، اللهم اشف مرضانا، اللهم اشف مرضانا وارحم موتانا. اللهم اجبر كسر كسيرنا، اللهم اجبر قلوبهم، اللهم اجعلهم من الصابرين الشاكرين الحامدين. اللهم اغفر لنا ولهم وارحمنا وارحمهم.